Palace Playland, an amusement park in Old Orchard Beach, sits along the beachfront. Many of the rides, including this roller coaster, were destroyed by a fire in October 1948. This was the last wooden roller coaster in Maine. The Palace Playland amusement park on the beachfront in Old Orchard Beach before the fire on October 3, 1948. The amusement park surrounded by Old Orchard Street, West Grand Avenue, Staples Street and the beachfront was completely destroyed. Restaurant ruins in downtown Old Orchard Beach, taken on October 4, 1948 after the damage from the fire the day before. The entire block of the amusement park, Palace Playland, was destroyed. The famous wooden roller coaster, the Old Mill Ride, 2 game concessions, 2 summer cottages, and 2 bathhouses were burned. View of Old Orchard Beach taken from the end of the pier looking south towards the beach. Horses and buggies, ladies in long dresses line the beach and a group of swimmers enjoy the water. Crowds of people on the pier and on the beach near the pier are captured in this photograph taken in 1923 by R. Cutler Libby. Crowds of vacationers are shown on the beach in front of the Fisk House Resort in Old Orchard Beach. R. Cutler Libby took the photo July 21, 1907. The Old Orchard Beach Pier, a famous attraction for summer visitors from the United States as well as Canada. This photograph was taken from the East Grand Avenue side of the pier. Tourists and their finery sit and walk upon the boardwalk at Old Orchard Beach, 1912. A picture of the beach with the pier in the background. This beach was a magnet for summer tourists, especially those coming from Canada on the Grand Trunk Railroad. On the back of the photo, Old Orchard Beach and Pier. Photo taken before the fire of August 15, 1907. See Cape Shore Sentinel No. 4. March 5, 1888, federal government granted permission for pier construction. Work not actually started until January 17, 1896. Swept away by disastrous storm in fall of 1898. Again, the reconstruction of the pier was swept away by a terrific storm in 1914. Building on the Old Orchard Pier commenced on May 17, 1898 and was completed by July 2. The end of the pier originally had a ballroom, featuring multiple well-known East Coast bands, as well as a casino. The ballroom featured in this photograph was swept away on December 4, 1898, only 156 days after opening. Foot of Old Orchard Street, Old Orchard Beach, 1910, very crowded with cars lining up in front of White City. There is a sign for Forest Pier Hotel, many modern, for that time, cars, a sign for the Hoopla game. Many spectators line the street and upper balconies. The beach at low tide, looking south from the pier. There are people in the water, walking along the beach and lounging on shore. At the far right of the picture can be seen the sign for a public bathhouse. The wide expanse of this beach led to having auto racing on the beach starting in 1907 or earlier. The last formal race was in 1913, looking along the beach toward the pier, from near Guggen's Rocks, Old Orchard Beach. Several people are strolling along this very wide beach at low tide. On her 101st birthday, Almacia Bennett took an airplane ride from Boston to Old Orchard Beach with 99-year-old Charles Bradley. They arrived to much fanfare and cheer. Guy Gannett focused heavily on using photography in his newspapers. Although photography had become ubiquitous in print, Gannett utilized it in much larger numbers than contemporary newspapers. This photocentric practice would become a defining characteristic of his publishing companies, with his photographers constantly working to capture Maine in an authentic and comprehensive manner. Looking along the beach toward the pier, from near Guggen's Rocks, Old Orchard Beach. Several people are strolling along this very wide beach at low tide, Old Orchard Beach, possibly prior to the construction of the pier in 1898. Men and women in formal dress stroll the boardwalk in front of a hotel. At low tide, the densely packed sand of Old Orchard Beach provided ample room for a range of leisurely seaside activities, such as swimming and strolling. In the 1920s, it was also used as a runway for airplanes and as a raceway for automobiles. Hotel Velvet prior to the fire of August 15, 1907. On the corner of East Grand Avenue and Old Orchard Avenue in Old Orchard Beach. Hildreth's Velvet Kisses were put up and sold in yellow boxes at this location and were known to thousands. Old Orchard's largest hotel was the Old Orchard House. It was built in 1876 for Ebenezer Staples, and paid for by his son. Tall church spires in Portland and Mount Washington could be seen from the roof of the hotel. This hotel did escape the Great Fire of 1907. Over the years Old Orchard developed into a major resort. Airplanes took off from the beach and auto races were held on the sand. Most of the large hotels were destroyed in the fire of 1907. The oldest hotel still standing on the beachfront in Old Orchard as of 2012, is the Ocean House Hotel and Motel, circa 1895, located at 71 West Grand Avenue. The 7-mile-long beach stretching away from the downtown is lined with many beach residential properties, condominiums, motels, bed and breakfasts, an amusement park and a pier. 3 versions of the pier were constructed by man and modified by nature. The first was built in 1898 with a casino and a ballroom at the end. Shortly after its completion a storm reduced its length, as was the second pier. The third incarnation of the pier was built in 1980 is still in use as of 2012. The pier is lined with souvenir shops, fair-style foods, and a nightclub. The Old Orchard Beach Amusement Park, Palace Playaland, dates back to 1902 and sits on 4 acres of beachfront property. Old Orchard Beach was home to the first carousel in the United States, Noah's Ark, a kid-friendly, boat-shaped funhouse with hand-carved figures of Noah and his family. A fire in 1969 destroyed many of the wooden amusement rides and the casino was demolished in 1970. The Tickner Brothers Printing Company published this type of postcard circa 1938 as part of their main series. These, and other postcards, by the Tickner Brothers Company are officially known as the Tickner Gloss series because the photographs were notoriously retouched on such a level that does not allow the postcards to be classified as photographs or paintings. The caption reads, "Oceanfront Hotels at Night, Old Orchard Beach, Maine."
The St. Cloud Hotel in Old Orchard Beach burned on November 10, 1881, along with the second Fisk Hotel. The third, and final, Fisk Hotel was built on the former site of the old Fisk and St. Cloud hotels, but that too burned in the Great Fire of 1907.
Looking down a main street in Old Orchard Beach with a horse and buggy in the foreground, a view of the amusement rides and vacationers along the beach near the Fisk Hotel on Old Orchard Beach. The Fisk Hotel, 1882 to 1907, held 300 guests, and was built on the site of the old Fisk and St. Cloud hotels, which burned on November 10, 1881. It had its own telegraph office, telephones, laundry, orchestra, billiard hall, bowling alley, and 130 rooms on 6 floors. It also had its own baseball team. There were 2 Fisk hotels prior to the third and final, that both were destroyed by fires. This last hotel opened on July 1, 1882, but was doomed to fall to the Great Conflagration of 1907 like so many others.